The Mavericks look for their third straight win and second consecutive win on their homestand as they take on the Sacramento Kings. We'll preview tonight's game coming up next on the DLLS Mavs pregame show. Here we go. Hey, what's up, DLLS Mavs Nation? It's your man, Kevin Gray, alongside Mavericks analyst Bobby Carrello. We are DLLS Mavs, your favorite guys, covering your favorite team every single game night. Really appreciate you joining us here on DLLS Sports. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe while you are here, as well as we get you ready for the Mavericks taking on the Sacramento Kings at the AAC. Mavericks looking for their third straight win and their second straight win on this current four-game homestand. We'll let you know who's in, who's out. We'll have our Mavericks player spotlight a little bit later on in our show, and Bobby Carrello's scouting report to get you ready for tonight's game. What is a night filled with mixed emotions as the Mavericks not only take on the Sacramento Kings tonight, but yes, Lukadoncic making his season debut later on tonight with the Los Angeles Lakers, as the Mavericks will continue to move on without Doncic. No Anthony Davis in tonight's game as he's dealing with that adductor strain. More on that here in just a little bit. But as I mentioned, Bobby, a night of mixed emotions, not only with Luka Doncic making his debut for the Los Angeles Lakers tonight, but the Mavericks GM, Nico Harrison, is in the building tonight as well after not being there for Saturday's game against the Houston Rockets. The GM of the Dallas Mavericks is in the building tonight against Sacramento.
He might need to play.
At this point, bodies are definitely going to be needed for this team. We'll get into who's in and who's out for tonight's game. Let's get you set up, though, for tonight's game. Of course, game number 54 on the season for your Dallas Mavericks at 28-25 on the season, 15-10 so far this year in 25 games at the American Airlines Center. Kings come into tonight's game 26-26 overall, 12-13 away from Sacktown so far this year. Mavericks a 1.5 favorite tonight going into the game, so essentially a toss-up for tonight's game with the over-under at 237.5. If you're going to be watching the game, tip-off, of course, is at 7:30, and you can watch it on WFAA Channel 8 and also KFAA Channel 29 as well.
Sorry, I'm seeing Tanner in the chat, and there's someone with the username Explosive Diarrhea, which shout out to you, but Tanner just said, yeah, it just makes me sad all over again. Explosive diarrhea. I'm like, that makes me sad too. Honestly,
it did feel funny to type.
The last week has felt like that, so I'm ready to move forward, though.
And we will do so tonight. Shout out to Claymore KIC in the chat as well. Thank you all so much for joining us here on the pregame show. A bit of good news prior to tonight's game. Congratulations to Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving now a 9-time All-Star, as he will replace Anthony Davis in the Western Conference All-Star team. Kyrie Irving, that announcement being made earlier this afternoon. So congratulations to Kyrie Irving, guy averaging over 24 points per game so far this year. At 32 years old, is now a 9-time All-Star. So congratulations to Kyrie Irving.
Can I trust you to watch the game and fill me in on what happens?
As far as, the All-Star game?
Yeah. I'm on a crusade against the All-Star game. Big NBA, I will not be silenced. They keep trying to find ways to get me to watch.
Well, they traded for Anthony Davis, who's an All-Star, and then he gets hurt. Now Kyrie Irving is an All-Star. So
what's it going to take? What's it going to take?
Well, it sounds like you're committed to the bit.
I am committed. It's not a bit. This is very serious.
This is very serious business for Bobby Carrello. But again, congratulations to Kyrie Irving.
It is cool, though. Yeah.
Now 9-time NBA All-Star. Mavericks come into tonight's game 8th in the West, 2 full games behind the Timberwolves for the 6th seed in the Western Conference. As we mentioned, have won a couple of games in a row over Boston and Houston. 5-5 overall in their last 10 games are the Dallas Mavericks. 20-17 against the Western Conference so far this year, but just 13-20 against teams above 500. Good thing they're not playing a team that's above 500. Kings are an even 500 at 26-26. Dallas, though, is 1-0 on their current 4-game homestand, which continues tonight against Sacramento, and then a back-to-back on Wednesday and Thursday when they welcome in the Golden State Warriors and the Miami Heat. Meanwhile, for the Sacramento Kings, They are ninth in the West coming into tonight's game, sitting a game and a half behind the Mavericks for the 8th seed in the West. Overall, they're just 2-4 in their last 6 games. They're coming off a win on Saturday over the Pelicans, where they had to come back from being down by 20 points to win that game. Tonight, though, begins a 3-game road trip for Sacramento tonight against Dallas, and then they will play a couple of games against the Pelicans on Wednesday and Thursday later on this week. Sacramento so far this year 17-17 against the West and 13-17 against teams above 500. That gives you a lay of the land for both of these teams and what they look like coming into tonight's game, which gets us to Bobby Carella's scouting report on this evening, focusing in on the big man in the middle for the Sacramento Kings, a rebounding machine that is Domantas Sabonis.
Big man, massive elbows. He does this a lot, so you got to be careful.
He does have some sharp elbows, now that you mentioned
Sabonis this year has set or given, I don't know what you would do, 902 handoffs. 902, which is 228 more than the next most guy in the NBA, than the second place guy, Nikola Jokic. And Jokic is the only other guy that's given at least 600 handoffs. So Sabonis is really in a league of his own when it comes to running offense. A lot of this stuff is at the three-point line or at the elbow. A lot of it went to De'Aaron Fox, in the previous era of the Kings. Of course, they traded him to the San Antonio Spurs. He does it a lot with Malik Monk, but the one that I'm watching tonight is Zach LaVine, the guy that they traded Fox for.
My bad.
No, you're good. You're good. It made me want pizza, so it was effective. Pizza does sound really good. But, and handoffs are interesting because, especially for a slower guy, handoffs are kind of the only way that they can turn the corner with an advantage, right? Because they can't just burn guys. But players like Fox before, LaVine now, they have that initial burst. So they become even more dangerous. Malik Monk, very quick, even more dangerous. If you can take that handoff at full speed, you fly around the corner, it's going to be tough. And the Mavs, with the way they want to defend, they'll bring Gafford out, with no Lively and no other bigs of note available tonight. If Gafford steps out too far, as Monk or LaVine take those handoffs and turn the corner, he's not going to be able to catch up to them. So, I want to see Gafford drop back on those, and I would rather concede those 18, 20-foot pull-up twos than step out and risk getting burned, because with no PJ and with no AD and with no Maxey anymore, and with no Dwight at all, and there's just no size elsewhere on the roster. Now, the good thing is the Kings don't play a real 4. It's Keegan Murray, who's more of a space guy, spacer, or DeMar DeRozan, whichever one you want to consider your 4. But they do bring Valanciunas off the bench, and so I suspect we're going to see some Kyler Kelly minutes off the bench, because if you try and do the bit they did against Embiid, where they were putting like Kessler Edwards and Omax on Embiid, Valanciunas is going to eat those guys up in the same way. We even saw the Rockets go 2 bigs the other day whenever the Mavs were playing them, and it was really effective. So, Gafford's got to come to play, stay out of foul trouble, and then Kyrie especially. I want Kyrie sidestepping those handoffs. I don't want Kyrie running into Sabonis all night. It's going to be a lot of wear and tear on him.
Of course, as he's dealing with that bad back, trying to alleviate as much hits onto that back into his body as possible. That gets us to our lead story going into tonight's game. We'll hear from Mavericks head coach Jason Kidd here in just a moment. But can the Mavericks keep their momentum going into the All-Star break? Obviously, it's been a difficult season for them when it comes to injuries, but they have won their last couple of games over Boston and Houston, looking for their 3rd straight win. A couple of more games after tonight before they hit the All-Star break. And the question is, can they stay healthy between now and then? We'll get to the injury report a little bit later on, but the amount of injuries that this team has dealt with and the adversity that they have gone through so far this year has taken a toll on this team. I asked Jason Kidd prior to tonight's game during his pregame media availability, how has he processed this mentally and emotionally over the last week, given the drastic changes that this franchise has gone through? This team is fighting, and this is what Jason Kidd had to say about it.
I've been through it, so my job is to speak or tell guys that, you got to keep pushing forward, and that's what this group has done, through injuries, through trade. This past week, the train doesn't stop. The games keep coming, and no one feels sorry for us. That's just the way the league is, and so for us to pout or want to take our ball and go home, it doesn't work in this league. You gotta fight, and our group is fighting. That group in that locker room has character. They care. They want to win. They get the opportunity. We talked at the beginning of the season how deep we are. Well, we're being tested right now, and so for me, is to be able to continue to keep with that energy and effort. That's all we're talking about. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to lose. We're going to win, but you just got to keep playing, and you can see that with this group.
And honestly, that's some good perspective to have, because I can only imagine the amount that Jason Kidd has had to go through over the last just week and a couple of days here with the changes for this organization. But the energy and the effort is number one for this team, and they're going to need a lot of that tonight with the amount of bodies that they are not going to have available to them. But of all the things negative that have been besetting this team, that is one thing I think we could say consistently that this team has done throughout the course of the year, which is fight regardless of who is or who isn't on the floor, which I think is the hallmark of a team that is at least still holding on to the rope and pulling together at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, they're trying. They're fighting. It's just they're so shorthanded, And from like a tactical, strategic standpoint, you make this massive trade after going like a month and a half without Luka, where you're playing one way. Before that, you had Luka, you were playing this way. Now you trade for AD, so you're like, all right, now we're going to play this way, and now AD gets hurt, so now you got to go back to the way you were playing before. So there's just no consistency, and when you get AD and PJ out, now everybody's playing out of position. You had Hardy catching DNPs for a while. Is he going to play tonight? I guess we'll see. Omax was basically a DNP last game. Is he going to play tonight? I guess. Kessler Edwards started the game at Boston. Like, you're just having to plug and play guys all over the place, in roles that they're not really comfortable with. And, lately they've been winning, which is really cool. They won 2 in a row. But it's just really hard to do that for a long stretch of time. Guys need consistent roles so that they can perform consistently, and whenever no one knows what to expect, including the head coach, it's just really hard to string, like, prolonged stretches of good play together.
Yeah, and they will try to do so again tonight as they welcome in Sacramento. Offensively, Sacramento's going to be led by DeMar DeRozan. He's averaging nearly 22 points per game. Domantas Sabonis, who we mentioned a little bit so far this year, averaging nearly 21 points per game, 14.3 rebounds per contest. That is number one in the association so far this year. Also giving you over 6 assists per contest as well. Zach LaVine, of course, the newest member of Sacramento, averaging 19 points per game so far in 3 games with Sacramento. Mavericks, of course, going to be led offensively by Kyrie Irving, the newest all-star in the Western Conference, averaging over 24 points per game, shooting nearly 48% from the field in 42 games so far this year. Klay Thompson shooting nearly 44% from 3 so far in his last 8 games, I should say. And defensively, of course, without Anthony Davis in the lineup, Daniel Gafford is going to be the big man in the middle once again, averaging 12.5 points per game, nearly 7 rebounds, and 1.9 blocks per game so far this year. Daniel Gafford going to have a big role in tonight's game. Meanwhile, for Dallas and Sacramento, playing each other for the second time this season, and of course the first time in Dallas so far this year. Sacramento won the first matchup back on December 30th in Sacramento, 110-100. Spencer Dinwiddie had 30 points that night. PJ Washington had 28 points in the losing effort. No PJ Washington tonight. The leading scorer for the Sacramento Kings isn't there anymore either. That's because De'Aaron Fox is no longer with the Kings. Of course, he is now with the San Antonio Spurs. He had 33 points in the win. But in that night, though, there was no Kyrie, there was no Dante Exum, and there was no Najee Marshall either. He was still dealing with suspension at that particular point. God bless you.
Sorry. Thank you.
So these two teams will see each other again on March the 3rd, but two teams that look a lot different from the last time they saw each other a couple of nights before the new year of 2025. Again, with no Kyrie, no Exum, no Najee, those 3 individuals are, of course, going to be playing for Dallas. So it should look a little different tonight versus what we saw the first time around.
Yeah, I mean, that first game against Sacramento was just like, basically for the entire second half, the Mavs could not create a good shot. We were just begging, pleading. We were on our knees in the studio saying, like, please, someone get healthy. Please, come back. Now with Kyrie and Exum, at least for most of the game, you would think that they'd be able to get good shots. Whether they can knock them down is ultimately going to be up to, Max the Goat Christie and some other guys. But, they should be able to get good looks. Can they get stops, I guess, is the bigger question tonight.
Yeah, we will find out tonight. Sacramento, a terrific offensive team, number 9, I should say, in the NBA in terms of points per game, number 11 in field goal percentage. They don't shoot the ball well from 3, though. 5th worst in the NBA in terms of 3-point percentage so far this year. Coming up here on the DLLS Mavs pregame show, who's in, who's out, some X factors, plus we focus in on our Mavericks player spotlight as well. And we'll hear from Mavericks beat writer Tim Cato live from the American Airlines Center. All that and more coming up here on the DLLS Mavs pregame show. But before that, let's talk to you a little bit about Sleeper.
Yeah, it's time for my Sleeper pick of the night. So obviously I'm going to start with the Mavs because they're the team that's playing. I think that Domantas Sabonis is going to get a double-double. He's pretty much a walking, living, breathing double-double.
Mm-hmm.
I think Kyrie Irving is going to score at least 20 points. He had a really, really poor game against Houston, but shout out to Amen Thompson for that. You know what? It's time to have some fun too. Luka the Don is coming back tonight, and you know what? I think he's going to do some really, really silly stuff out there. I'm taking Luka not for 35. I'm taking Luka for 40 points in his Lakers debut. I want to feel something. I want to feel something.
Woo!
With Sleeper, the more you play, the more you win. And so this little pick has times 7.08 multipliers. So if my $5 play hits, then I win $35.40. If you think you know ball, download Sleeper, use promo code DLLS Mavs. Play $5 and get $55 to use on any play. Does not have to be your first. It's operational in more than 25 states, including Texas. KG, I should also add, we're doing a little giveaway over on DLLS Mavs.
Yes.
The All-NBA podcast is doing a watch-along tomorrow night with our friend Adam Modis from Denver, and then also from DNVR. Sorry, he lives in Denver, but he works at DNVR. And then also the GOAT, Tim Legler. They're going to be doing a live watch-along on playback. And so if you go to the DLLS_Mavs Twitter account, retweet that post, sign up for free at playback.tv/AllNBA show to join that room. And we have 2 promo codes, and we might get more to give away. We'll give them away at halftime of the Mavs game tonight. So you have another hour or so. It's, again, at DLLS_Mavs. Just retweet that tweet and then sign up for free at playback.tv/AllNBA show. Enter for a chance to win a free month of League Pass. A free month of League Pass.
That's pretty dope.
Pretty good value. You can watch any team, any game outside of Dallas or your local market, wherever it's blacked out. And with Luka playing in L.A., now's a good time to get a month of League Pass.
Speaking of Tim Legler, he's on the call tonight for ESPN in Los Angeles as the Utah Jazz play the Los Angeles Lakers. So Leg's going to get a up-close, real personal view of Luka Doncic in his debut tonight for the Los Angeles Lakers. Still can't believe I'm saying that. I wish we had a camera, honestly, so that we could have a Tanner cam, because every time we mention the fact that Luka Doncic is making his debut tonight, the scowl that comes across my man's face is palpable. Like, you can feel it coming this direction on how upset he is, the fact that Luka Doncic is going to be wearing purple and gold tonight for the Los Angeles Lakers.
I just threw up in my mouth.
a lot of us have throughout the course of the day seeing that purple and gold.
The post game is just going to be a watch along of that game.
Low key, it kind of will be to see what he does. Before we get to our guy Tim Cato live at the American Airlines Center, let's let you know who's in and who's out for tonight's game. Shout out to Sacramento. They have no injury designations for tonight's game, so they are all healthy and good to go. So good for them. Meanwhile, not the same for the Dallas Mavericks, of course. Anthony Davis is going to be out, of course, with the left adductor strain. Jason Kidd saying prior to tonight's game that he is still being evaluated as far as the timetable is concerned.
Yeah,
how
everything is fine.
How long he will be
It's
out.
all
We'll
good.
get more from
Fine.
Tim here in just a second. Derek Lively II remains
Long
out.
ass evaluation, KG.
Oh, well, look, man, I just work here. That's all I do. I just work here. Derek Lively II has the right ankle stress fracture. Caleb Martin out with the right hip strain. Dwight Powell, right hip strain as well. PJ Washington, he is out tonight with the right ankle sprain. Max Christie is available. He's been dealing with a right shoulder strain. Dante Exum is also available. He's been dealing with some left Achilles tightness coming into tonight's game. With that, let's welcome in our Mavericks beat writer, Tim Cato. You can find him on X at Tim_Cato live here at the American Airlines Center. Tim, what's going on? How we doing?
Nothing much. How are you guys over at the studio?
Fine. we're a little. It's a little bittersweet over here.
A little mixed emotions going into tonight's game, obviously with the Mavericks playing, but of course the headline tonight is Luka Doncic making his debut in Tinseltown with the Los Angeles Lakers. But Jason Kidd speaking pregame, as far as his pregame comments were concerned, what did you take away as we see both? We know that Nico Harrison is also in the building tonight for the Dallas Mavericks as well.
Yeah, so Jason Kidd, I mean, he talked a lot. Kyrie is, they view him as an all-star even before he got announced as one. Obvious stuff. It makes sense. Max Christie turns 22 today, but Jason Kidd sees him. He's more like 32 in terms of his maturity and his poise, the way he handles himself. Obviously, as you said, Kevin, there's still The Anthony Davis injury is still being evaluated. I would say a long-running maxim when it comes to injuries is that the longer you have to wait on the news, the less likely it's going to be good. But I don't have anything to update with you guys on that. We're just kind of in a holding pattern right now. The one thing that I asked Jason tonight before the game was just about Kyrie and his minutes. And before the Houston game, he had said the idea was to keep Kyrie's minutes under 40. Once again, they were over. He played 42 minutes in a game, even though Dallas was leading and winning pretty much the entire time. And yeah, Jason Kidd said that's a concern. It's certainly something that's on his mind. But on the flip side, he said that all he can think about is the Sacramento game right now, and that if Kyrie has to play another 40 tonight in this game, then that's the job, and he can rest tomorrow. He can get some extra rest tomorrow. So on one hand, it's definitely concerning. I mean, it's to me as out of everybody who is currently healthy, obviously the biggest concern is this Anthony Davis injury in terms of the team's outlooks the rest of the season. But Kyrie is being worked a lot, and there aren't a lot of other options or answers, things that are really able to be done to mitigate that. And that's doubly true if Anthony Davis is going to be out for a bit. Because at least with Anthony Davis, you have somewhere you can go with the offense to kind of, focus in on, to have a focal point. Without him, you're going right back to where we were this entire past month. A stretch that when Dallas was in the midst of it, the entire idea was just get through it. The only way out is through, and eventually Luka will be back. Now he's not on the team, and it's going to get tougher, especially if Anthony Davis isn't even available to both anchor the defense to kind of relieve some pressure off the offense, but also just to be someone that you can throw the ball into and at least have some confidence that the possession is going to end up in a positive direction, that he's going to do something progressive and positive with the ball in his hands.
We also see that Nico Harrison is at tonight's game. Ran into Mark Cuban before tonight's game as well. So very interesting given the events of this past weekend that we are seeing principally the figurehead of all of this. I shouldn't say figurehead because he actually is that. But the face of all of this, and Nico Harrison is in the building tonight to take in, it appears, the Mavericks and the Kings game at the arena.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see exactly what happens there. I'm going to be watching and seeing what the game presentation, the game operations presentation looks like, just like, I did a little bit of reporting on at Saturday's game where, fans were not shown, not even once on the Jumbotron. That was a decision Dallas made. And, but yeah, I mean, at some point it's going to be business as usual. Dallas can't, even from Dallas's perspective, it feels, they've been the people adding fuel to the fire in a lot of ways, between Patrick Dumont coming out and, with his comments yesterday, just when it felt like, some of the storylines, some of the anger might have been fading, and now there's this Anthony Davis injury, so we'll see, but there was obviously, I'm not making light of, threats, that he received, and he absolutely did. I know that's been a whole thing, but there's no doubt that Nico Harrison, received, online threats from people, and that's obviously, just outright, it's outrageous, and it shouldn't happen. That's not, none of that is in doubt. But what I'll say is that inside the building, obviously on Saturday, there was, nothing but Mavericks fans cheering on the Mavericks team that they are fans of. So, I'm again, it's not my place to second guess the decisions that the team was making. And, and we'll see, perhaps Nico Harrison, even though he's in the building, who's to say whether he's going to be present in his seat in the fans or, in the stands, or whether it's going to be something different, and how long that goes on. Obviously, that is the team's decision, and they're the people best positioned to know what makes sense. But at some point, yes, business as usual. It has to get back to business as usual, because that's the only way. The decisions have been made, and now the team, from the team's perspective, has to, continue operating like a team would, because that is ultimately the job. The machine keeps on moving, and yeah, so a lot of still a lot to see exactly how Dallas continues to handle this, and an extended absence from Anthony Davis is not exactly the best recipe for forgetting and moving on from their perspective, but that's the reality.
Let's get to our Mavericks player spotlight on tonight's game. Let's focus in on the big man in the middle for the Dallas Mavericks. That is Daniel Gafford. Had 6 blocks in the win on Saturday against the Houston Rockets. Gafford's now 4th in the NBA in block shots per game at 1.9. His teammate Anthony Davis sitting there at 3rd at 2.2 blocks per game. Over his last 9 games, Gafford averaging 3.4 blocks per game. And then the loss against the Kings back on December 30th had 5 blocks in that game. He is going to have to be on both ends of the floor tonight big because of the lack of depth, unfortunately, again, when it comes to the Mavericks and their big men tonight.
Yeah, the number one things he's going to have to do is win all those one-on-one battles with Sabonis for rebounds. Sabonis, a big putback guy, big tip-in guy. And, the upside of going for blocks is that, first off, blocks are cool. They look really cool. But secondly, it prevents layups. You're preventing a shot right at the rim. The downside of going for blocks is that if you miss it, or if you're late, or if you're early, you're not in a position to get the rebound. And so, whenever you have 2 bigs out there, like in the earlier days when it was Maxey, now if it's AD, you can have a little more freedom to go for the block, because if you fail, there's going to be another dude right behind you that can get the rebound. Not going to be the case tonight. So Gafford needs to be really measured. And then also, without that extra big body back there, the Mavs perimeter defenders have to be a little more careful about chances that they take, because if you do get burned, then you're going to be putting Gafford in that difficult position. And furthermore, foul trouble could be very, very, very catastrophic.
Mm-hmm.
So, you're going to have to defend really carefully tonight, which means you're probably not forcing many turnovers. You're probably not blocking many shots, but you got to limit the easy looks when you can.
Shout out to Mitch.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to agree with Bobby.
Let's get to Mitch Mitchell with the $2 super chat. I hope both the Mavs and the Lakers win tonight. Shout out to you, Mitch, for the $2 super chat. I'm sure Mavericks fans would love to see Luka go off for about 50 and the Lakers lose, and the Mavericks win. I think that would be the best outcome for everyone on this night.
Ooh, can I ask an informal question to the chat? Would you rather the Lakers win every game for the rest of the season, or the Lakers lose every game for the rest of the season? But Luka averages 30, 10, and 10 no matter what. So, he's going to be fine. Would you rather the Lakers win every game or the Lakers lose every game? There's no in between. All or nothing.
I mean, like how I call it when it comes to, I'm a Cowboys fan. So the saying is Dallas forever, Philly for never, Lakers for never. Because for what? For who? For what? Yeah, so I would love to see Luka go for 30 and 10 and 10 every night, and Lakers lose every game.
Quite a lot of lose, but there are some wins. There are some wins. A couple don't cares. But the Lakers are the rivals. They're the rivals. They're the enemy. The Lakers are the Lakers.
Yeah.
I never wish success upon them.
Yeah.
Ever.
It's mixed emotions. I think this is the operative phrase for tonight, given everything that's happening here. Going into the Lakers taking on the Jazz and the Mavericks taking on Sacramento, which gets us to some X factors real quick before we get out of here for tonight's game between Dallas and Sacramento. Number one, for the Mavericks, the bench got to step up. They did a great job against Houston on Saturday, scored 53 points in that win against Houston. Mavericks so far this year, 15th in the NBA in bench points per game and nearly 36. That bench is going to be severely tested once again as far as the depth is concerned, because we know the amount of bodies that are not available. Max, looking at you. Jaden Hardy, looking at you. Najee, among others, looking at this bench tonight. It's going to have to play well against Sacramento. Number two, you got to limit the turnovers if you're Dallas tonight. They've done actually a pretty good job of that over the last 5 games, which has been a story for them all year long. Has been a turnover problem for Dallas. But over the last 5 games, only committing 11.2 turnovers per game. That's tied for second fewest in the NBA during that span. They only had 6 turnovers in their win against the Rockets on Saturday. So when you protect the ball and you defend, good things can happen, and the Mavericks are doing a little bit better job of that in terms of the turnover department over the last 5 games or so. And finally, we talked about them already throughout the course of the pregame show, but you've got to find a way to keep Domantas Sabonis contained on the glass. You're not necessarily going to stop him from getting boards, but you got to find a way to contain him because, as we mentioned, number 1 in the NBA, collecting over 14 rebounds per contest. This is a man who knows how to clean up the glass and do it very, very well. The Mavericks are going to have to do a lot of good team rebounding tonight, trying to make things difficult on Sacramento. So those are some things to look for in tonight's game. Tim, anything else from you before we let you go, my guy?
Let's see how this goes.
All right, man. We appreciate you reporting live from the American Airlines. We'll talk to you post-game right here on the DLLS Mavs post-game show, man. Thank you.
Bye, Tim. Stay warm.
That's our guy, Tim Cato.
It is so cold outside.
It is, yeah, it was like
That's
80,
why I got all this going on.
well, it was like 80 degrees yesterday, and it dropped to like 40 today. It's insane.
It was 87 degrees on Saturday.
Yeah, it's insane.
It's 40 degrees right now.
Like Texas
I
weather,
cannot keep up.
Yeah, Texas weather doesn't want anybody to feel better. Before we end our pregame show, let's get to Claymore K.
Claymore.
With the $5 super chat. What are the
Appreciate you, dude.
chances Jason Kidd and Nico Harrison resigns at the end of the year? 0.
Yeah, I would say, 0.
0.
Kid got an extension last year. Nico, I'm not
Both
sure.
of them got extensions
Did
last
Nico
year.
get an extension
yeah.
too?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're never going to quit that role. Coaches rarely ever resign. Like usually it's like you can't come to contract agreement, kind of
That's
like a
right.
Mike McCarthy thing. It's
That's
like,
right.
well, I'm going to
There you
leave.
go and get that football
GMs
stuff.
will never quit. That decision could be made for them, but I don't think that's going to happen. I just don't think that's going to happen.
Agreed. Do we have any more results? Did you actually make a poll on that?
Tanner did. Yeah,
Oh, you
would
did?
you rather
Okay.
the Lakers win or lose every game? Win one. Win one.
Win one game only.
Win 66 to 33%.
So we do have Lakers fans in the chat.
We
that
do have
watch
Lakers
us.
fans in the
So,
chat.
There's also that.
take that.
Yeah, well, we welcome fans of all teams.
We do. And we appreciate all of you having watched the DLLS Mavs pregame show. We will be back 15 minutes after the final buzzer of tonight's game between your Dallas Mavericks and the Sacramento Kings.
Mavs fans might be rooting on the Kings tonight, dude. I don't know.
No,
It's been a long week.
That's hustling backwards.
People are feeling all sorts of things.
Don't do that. We'll be joined by our national NBA insider, Mark Stein. He is in Los Angeles covering tonight's game between the Utah Jazz and the Lakers. Dirk Nowitzki in the house in Los Angeles to watch Luka's debut with the Los Angeles Lakers. So that'll be interesting to hear from Mark Stein on how that went with Dirk in the building as well. And we'll have our Mavericks beat writer Tim Cato reporting live from the American Airlines Center as well. Appreciate our guy Tanner for making us look good, sound good as always. That's our Mavericks analyst Bobby Krilla. I'm your host Kevin Gray. We are DLLS Mavs. We'll talk to you 15 minutes after the game tonight between the Kings and the Mavericks. Y'all be good. We'll talk to you later.
Let's go, Luka.
Peace.
We all silly like the mayor.